This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Today's episode of the Motor City Sports Rant is brought to you by The Athletic, premium coverage for passionate Detroit sports fans. Listeners of this podcast can save 20% off the first year of an annual subscription by visiting theathletic.com/DSP. That's theathletic.com/DSP to become a subscriber and save 20%.
Detroit is the greatest! Straight up light you on fire for a coney dog right now.
Darren McCarty comes back with Neiman in front of him. McCarty draws. McCarty in. McCarty scores! He makes it go! Darren McCarty!
Stafford takes, throws, end zone, Calvin, touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Motor City Sports Rant. I am the Doc, John Macaroon, coming to you from the Sterling Heights studio. I'm excited to start another week of podcasting. Lots to get into this week. The Detroit Red Wings ended their season. You have a scenario in which the season ended, you lose to the Islanders in overtime, you have the fifth worst record, you have an opportunity now, hopefully, in this lottery. Maybe if we talk to the hockey gods, maybe, just maybe, the Detroit Red Wings can win the lottery and draft Rasmus Dahlin, by all accounts, the best player, an amazing defenseman that can do a lot of things. He's a game changer. The season ended, but unfortunately, with the season that the Red Wings had, people were like, okay, good, no problem. They had faith. The season's going to end. Chris Ilitch is going to look at the jobs that Ken Holland and Jeff Blashill did, and he's going to broom them out, right? Did he do that? No. He came back, last game of the season, calls a quick presser, and is like, yo, I extended Ken Holland 2 more years. He's going to be in charge of these 11 picks that we got in the upcoming offseason, and he's going to be the guy that's going to be tasked with picking the players that are going to be the next crop of talent. Are you scared? Doc's scared, I can tell you that. Nobody here at the network, I think, and nobody out there who messaged us on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, yeah, maybe a handful that looked at it and said, yeah, good job, great job. You went out there and you're bringing back the guy that's also been in charge for the last 4 or 5 years when you've seen a steady decline with the Detroit Red Wings. The Red Wings end the season. They don't make the postseason. Last 2 years, you got 2 more years of Ken Holland. When this podcast drops on Tuesday, most people are going to think that he's going to actually stand up there at the table, Ken Holland that is, and he's going to announce that Jeff Blashill's coming back. Does that make you happy? Oh my God. Makes me scared, makes me nervous. Then you look at the Pistons. Their season's coming down to an end. They had their 42nd loss, an epic disaster where they give up almost 130 points. They lose, and you go, wow, the Pistons defense is horrid. You got national pundits going, the Pistons are handcuffed. They're going to be in trouble for years to come based on what Stan Van has done. And are you hearing rumors that he's going to be blown out? No. Most people think that he's going to be back coaching this team, and that just leads many people to be freaked out and scared. So we're going to talk about that. Jason is not here in studio. He's going to be calling in shortly here. I look forward to getting his take on what's been going on and things like that. But to get a hold of the podcast, you can message us at our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. You can reach us anytime, and we enjoy the banter, and it's all good. So it's a fun time to be part of the network. It's a good time to be part of the Detroit Sports Podcast. We record every single day, and it's one of those scenarios in which recording this podcast has been really fun. You know, thanks to your support for everybody out there that listens, that follows the network. You make it fun to turn on the lights here in Sterling Heights. I look forward to every start of the week, whether Jason, Adam, Vito, Steve. Talking Detroit sports with the fellas here is really fun. It's a fun time and things like that. It's great to be part of the network. It's great to record with Jason. Like I said, Jason couldn't make it to the studio, but I got him on the phone line. He always makes time for the Detroit Sports Podcast. Jason, what up, sir?
Not much. How's it going?
Man, Jason, I just kind of did a little Periscope. I was excited to talk to you. Just kind of talking about where things are with the Red Wings and Pistons as their seasons wound down. And let's just start with this. All right, Jason, the Red Wings season ends. They lose to the Islanders. Great. I mean, you get to overtime, you earn the point, but you lose in the end your last game to the Islanders late, and the Red Wings finished basically with the 5th worst record in the NHL, and they got basically, a decent chance to kind of do some things in the lottery, but the odds of the Wings winning the lottery are going to be low. So you look at the end of the season, we're expecting changes, right? Me and you were talking, we're like making assumptions like, hey, the Detroit Red Wings hopefully are going to blow out Ken Holland, blow out Jeff Blashill. It's supposed to be Black Monday, end the season and end the misery. And so what does Chris Ilitch do? He calls a presser and he announces Ken Holland has signed a 2-year extension. Our Twitter page blew up. I was frustrated. It was a terrible way to wake up from a nap. What did you make of it? What an awful announcement to end the season.
It just makes absolutely no sense. When I saw it and I thought it was a joke at first. Ken Holland renewed, not just for 1 year, but for 2 years. It made absolutely no sense. Unless they're just conceding the next 2 seasons, and maybe they're holding on hope that a savior is going to come and be our general manager. It was absolutely the wrong move.
See, that's where, Jason, I think you have made the point. They have given up on the fact of having competitive seasons. They have now announced the rebuild. And so finally, we now know the Wings don't believe that they're going to be competitive for the upcoming couple years. You've basically, you haven't given Ken Holland a long-term deal, but the question that everybody's really asking, and smart fans are asking really good questions too, is do you trust Ken Holland to actually go out there and pick the 11 best players with the 11 picks that he's got this offseason? My thought is no. My thought is that Ken Holland, the reason why the Wings have dipped to this level where they haven't made the postseason is because the young talent hasn't been good enough. You've created a blend of talent that isn't good enough to compete in the postseason. And so you want Ken Holland, with what he's done in terms of giving a bunch of guys long-term deals and that haven't panned out, you want to trust him to go out there and do it? The answer is no. Start over with somebody new. And Chris Ilitch, it's starting to seem with the early decisions that he's made is that he's not comfortable rocking the boat going outside of the organization to find people. It's really frustrating, Jason.
Yeah, and you see it with the Tigers as well. When they brought in, or they re-upped on Al Avila and they bring in a retread and Rod Gardenhire. It's just carrying over with the Red Wings, and it's frustrating as a fan because you wanna see them getting on the up and up. Like with the Lions, when Bob Quinn came in, we had to wait a little bit we finally got our coach, and you finally actually can believe that maybe we're going in the right direction and we have a clear head behind the steering wheel. But with Chris Ilitch at the helm, making all the business decisions, keeping Ken Holland, not really switching things up, it gives very little hope. And if they were looking for a move to try and get seats or get butts in the seats at Little Caesars Arena next year, this was absolutely the wrong move.
Exactly. So let's look at it from this perspective. Why do you think Chris Ilitch made this move? Do you think, honestly, that Chris Ilitch surveys the landscape and goes, I'd rather go with the guy I trust that's been in the organization since the 80s than to go outside the organization and actually start a rebuild with somebody new? Because if you look at it, the goal is obviously to rebuild a team in a way that can go out year in and year out and compete, similar to Chicago when they dipped. They struggled for years, and they get lucky, and they get Taves and Kane, and they have a period of success, multiple Stanley Cups, and now they're kind of falling back and starting the process again of their rebuild. And so you look at it and you go, okay, Chris Ilitch is sitting there, and he's seen the lack of attendance. He's seen the lack of buzz. He's seen the Red Wings dip. And you go, I'm going to trust the guy that put us in here in the first place to get us out of it. And you look at some of the contracts in the salary cap era, they're really bad. And you look at even some of the draft picks in the last couple of years, you could argue 3 or 4 of them, you could have went out and gotten better talent across the board. And so people are upset, but I don't understand. What is Chris Ilitch thinking?
Yeah, I think it's either... It's a lose-lose situation for him, because if you say that he trusts Ken Holland to really rebuild this thing, then he comes off as just a complete idiot. And I think the opposite end of the spectrum is maybe he's just done with all the sports things, and maybe in the next couple of years we're going to see them selling off the Red Wings and maybe even the Tigers.
Oh, Chris Ilitch is just, you're looking at him as being a little bit incompetent and maybe just looking at it like, look, let me keep let me not rock the boat so that the organizations can be stable if there's potential sales going on, huh?
Yeah, I think he's trying to make it as financially profitable for himself. And you look at what happened with the Pistons after Bill Davidson passes. They could not run that team, and it was basically just in a holding pattern until they got Tom Gores in there, and that's what they did. They kept Joe Dumars around. They still had a carousel of coaches, but I think it's a little bit different in hockey. You have some less players to coach. But honestly, if I had to say, I think it's the latter, that they really are. I think we could be seeing the Wings be sold sometime in the next couple of years, unless there really are. I don't know. The option that is still out there is you're holding out hope that Steve Yzerman comes along and wants to come back to Detroit.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are saying, is that in a year's time, you've only given Holland a 2-year deal. If Steve Yzerman does and hopefully has some success with Tampa Bay, then he'll be willing to leave there and come and try and rescue the Detroit Red Wings. I don't see Chris Ilitch selling the franchises because it's really good to be an owner. There's a lot of advantages to owning the teams, especially with the new arena, what's going on. I don't see that avenue. I just really believe that he's adverse to rocking the boat. He's adverse. He's scared to go outside of the organization because I understand the whole comfort thing in that it's better to go with the unknown because the Wings haven't rebuilt in damn near 30 years. Why go through it with somebody you don't know when at least you have somebody that's been under your thumb that you know you have a working relationship with? Maybe if he's going to sell, maybe there could be, I hear a little bit of rumblings and rumors regarding the Tigers, potentially could be because of the fact that they're worth damn near $1 billion. So that might be a scenario in the future. But, Jason, fine. You don't fire Ken Holland. Fine. I guess I can understand that part of it. But you don't even consider the news. The rumors are that Ken Holland today, Tuesday, is going to go out there in front of the media and he's going to announce that Jeff Blashill is probably going to return as well. And I look at that, he's probably even more egregious than bringing back Ken Holland. You're going to bring back the head coach that has not taken the team to the postseason in the last 2 seasons. They make the same mistakes. I don't see significant. People are talking like, oh, yeah, the team got better and things like that. But did they get better enough to the point where you could be comfortable with Jeff Blashill? I just feel like, you know what? You could go out there and upgrade at least in one position. That would be the head coach.
Yeah, it's crazy people hiring their own crazy people. So again, it's another move that makes zero sense unless you're absolutely just conceding these next couple of years. And from what I can look from the eye test, that's what they're doing, is they're giving up, and we aren't going to see competitive hockey at least for a couple of years.
Yeah. Are you patient, Jason? Because that's what the Pistons and Red Wings are asking. They're asking you. They're asking me. They're asking all the listeners and supporters of podcasts and everybody in Metro Detroit. They're asking. They're saying, look, guys, we now know we got to rebuild. Pistons and Red Wings. Are you patient, or are you just like, you know what? Let's just turn all of our attention to the Tigers and the Detroit Lions, and let's just catch up with the Wings and Pistons in 3 years and see what the fruits of their work has brought in. I'm going to peek in a little bit, but I was saying on a Periscope video, my passion's not there. It's like I was thinking about what I was going to talk to you about, and I knew it was going to be about the Pistons and Red Wings, and it just doesn't bring me any excitement. I mean, obviously you hear the excitement in my voice because I'm amped up to talk to you, but I'm not passionate about it. I just feel this pit in my stomach like, this sucks. Red Wings, Pistons, storied franchises, a decade of nothing. Man.
John, welcome to the struggle bus. I've been here for the past year at least, and finally you're catching up with me that these teams, they're not worth our time. I mean, for a couple games where they play big name teams where you want to check out some of the players, it's okay to do, but it's just not going to be a good product to watch, and it's not worth your time. It's sad to say, but that's what it's going to be.
I know. Red Wings, Pistons. Do you think the Pistons, you've seen the play with Reggie Jackson. They do have a winning record when he was on the court this year, but the question, and I think that's the part that gets lost in translation here, is the Pistons can't compete for the playoffs with Reggie Jackson. I don't think many people do believe they can get to the 5th, 6th, 7th seed with Reggie Jackson, but that's not what we want. We want to see championship trajectory. You want to see the process work similar to what has now happened with the 76ers. They're going to be seated high in this year's playoffs, and they got hope. They got a young nucleus that can do some things. Do you just want a team with the Pistons to just show up in the postseason and maybe win a round and then exit for the next 5 years? No. You want to see a championship trajectory. And so Tom Gores is sitting there, and I read in the Free Press and the Detroit News, there's not that much discussion, or it doesn't seem like the heat is really under Stan Van Gundy. He may lose the job and title of president, but he's probably next year going to be coaching the same talent. And it's just like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, we think we've known for a little while that Reggie Jackson is not the answer. I think one of the articles early on when they were starting the season, talking about playing in the Little Caesars Arena, was Reggie Jackson was complaining that he was playing in an arena that had a hockey rink as well, because it messed with it messes with his asthma. And when that's the first thing you hear from Reggie Jackson.
Jason, did you hear now? Henrik Zetterberg came out and said, you know what? I used to play at the Joe. The ice quality was world class. And he's like, you know what? Across the league, not just specific to Detroit, across the National Hockey League, in these arenas that also have basketball courts, he's like, the ice quality is not as good as I think it should be. He's like, with technology, you would think that they could, the engineers could produce ice that doesn't collect as much snow, and it's changing the play. He came out in the papers and said the ice quality at Little Caesars Arena is not the same at Joe Louis, and he feels like these dual arenas are causing a significant problem. So I was kind of surprised to hear him say that, and I kind of am surprised too. You would think in 2018 that they could be able to do it, but that's probably the least of the Red Wings' concern is the ice quality. But it does go to show you, Reggie Jackson and Henrik Zetterberg not happy in their arenas.
Well, if you've been to the stadium, correct?
Yeah, I've been there multiple times.
So I mean, it's clearly it was built for the Detroit Red Wings. It wasn't built for the Pistons.
Mm-hmm, right.
Like they were an added on afterthought, and it's great to have all the sports teams back in downtown Detroit, but they say whatever you want to say about the Palace, they just threw that away. That still was a very good arena to play in, and they should have serious doubts about their move downtown.
You think so?
Yes. I mean, and I know for a business standpoint, I think they probably are still, it's probably a smart move because, you're downtown and you get all that good press, but I think in the long run, they're fine. They're fine in Auburn Hills. And I think you alienated a large portion of your fan base by picking up and moving downtown just because it sounded good.
Yeah, it hasn't been good. Man, Pistons, Red Wings, it's tough to talk about them because of the fact that when you look at hope, what produces hope? Change. It's hard to be patient. I think that it would be easy. I don't understand. Why is it so hard to pull the trigger? I mean, if you were doing a terrible job, if you wouldn't show up to the studio but once every 3 weeks, I'd be like, man, is Jason really committed? But no, I think that's
Is that a dig? Is that a dig, John?
Oh, no, sorry. Did I say that out loud? Sorry, Jason. Sorry, I didn't say that out loud. What I'm saying is you got to evaluate what's going on, and you got to make tough decisions. Why? And it's sports. It's like, it's really weird because you look across, sports. You look across some organizations like the Browns, and I know not to use the Browns as really a staple, but you look at it, sometimes they go through coaches, once every year to try and get the right mix. And I know there's a notion of getting stability and things like that, but in the world of professional sports, there isn't that much loyalty. And the Pistons and Red Wings are going with the notion of, let's go with the same loyal approach with the guys that aren't producing. I think that they need, in terms of management, they need some dudes that are in there making decisions that are not patient. You need like a Mark Cuban. You need somebody that's a little bit crazy.
You need a Dan Gilbert, unfortunately.
Yeah, maybe a Dan Gilbert, somebody with a little bit of craziness. Maybe myself needs to go in there and just blow out everybody and just be like, tell the fans what they want for a minute and go out there and get the people that will do the job. And if you don't do it, you're going to be gone. Even if it's 1 year, offer a series of a couple-year deals and get some people in here that can do the job. I'm so shocked that the Pistons and Red Wings are not able to pull the trigger on making changes. It's the perfect time. The writing's on the wall. They just won't do it. And it's just been a concoction of negativity for the last 24 months. And you and I are sick of it.
Yep. And everyone's sick of it. Do you have a spare $500 million that you could maybe buy one of these teams and create some change?
You know what? I think the better investment is maybe buying an esports team. Maybe hit up the Pistons and be like, look, who are the esports? Who are the best Tekken players? Because are you seeing some of the money? I was curious. What a great segue. I was curious to get your sense, because I don't think it was really interesting to talk to somebody affiliated with esports last week, and I was talking to Adam Vito. I don't even think there's nobody here at the network that really is into video games. Are you? Are you a guy that back in the day was into that? Are you a Fortnite guy? Are you an esports guy?
I like video games. I currently, in where I am, I just don't have the time. Like I would love to be able to sit down and for like 2 hours and play a video game. Just don't have that time. I have peeked in a couple times to, I know on TBS they have those the Counter-Strike tournaments, and I can watch it for a little bit. It's kind of interesting to watch. I think some of the other games get a little above my head. Like I know there's the DOTA 2 that's like one of the biggest games in the world, and I just have zero understanding of that game.
Right.
But I get it. I feel like the esports comes in waves, because I feel like right now it's really big, but I also feel like it was really big maybe like 5-10 years ago, and then it's going to die down eventually, and then another new game is going to come out, and it's going to come with the fads and everything.
Yeah, it's really fascinating, the world of esports and the sponsorship dollars. And I've been looking on Twitch and what goes on there. There are young cats, Jason, and they figured it out. They're like, you know what? No, I'm not going to play video games for free. I'm not just going to sit here and waste away my time. I'm going to build a following. And there are actually people who sit and their job is to create content, but the content is just them sitting in front of their elaborate station and playing video games, and they build up this huge following. There are cats that whenever they turn on their console and play a game, will have like 2 and 3 and 4 million people watching them because they're so good at a game, just to pick up hints or tips. It's like really weird in that I've never done it yet. I said I might actually do it. I've never actively sat there and watched another human play a game. Never. And but there are people that are making, upwards of 40, 50,000 a month with their sponsorship deals, with their engagement in terms of having people watch them play video games. And they have YouTube videos, tutorials. It really is this whole subculture that's now come to the forefront, and it's actually really freaky.
It is very interesting, and actually it can be scary at times. Have you ever heard of swatting?
No. Oh God, fill me in.
So what happens is these Twitch players, they'll be online, they'll be playing their games. And because I guess they have like location services turned on, that there'll be trolls who either they got a beef with them or they just don't like them, and they'll call in like a bomb threat to where they live. And so you'll be seeing these guys, they'll be on their live stream, they'll get a knock at the door, and by now all of them know what's happening. They're like, I think I'm about to get swatted. The door will open, and it'll just be like an entire SWAT team coming in, because they've gotten a random call saying that there's some guy in an office and he's gonna shoot up a bunch of people.
Yes, I heard this last year. Yes. Oh my God, Jason. Yes, that's so crazy. And that I have heard of this. I can't believe the lengths in which people will go to try and mess somebody up or rib or prank. But
and I mean,
that's serious. It's serious. Yeah.
Like I know there was one where a guy like got killed because of it, and it's just I think it gets out of hand, and it's a crazy world.
Yeah, no doubt. But I just wish I had time. I mean, in terms of podcasting, the practice, I wish I had some time. I was talking to somebody about the PS4 and Fortnite. I probably just want to do it once or twice, but I can't see myself spending $500 to $600 on a PS4. Maybe in 2 years, I hear rumors of a PS5 in 2020, maybe for the kids and things like that. But I just don't have time right now to spend playing video games. But do you know what I do have time for? I've taken in a couple of the Tigers games, and similar to what me and Vito said, hey, they're at least playing 500 ball. It's been interesting. At least they went into Chicago and destroyed a garbage team. And it's been nice to see the Tigers at least winning a couple one-run games, seeing some dudes go out there like a Fires and at least produce a little bit. You had Michael Fulmer get his first win. You're seeing some key hits from Victor Martinez and Miguel Cabrera. You're seeing the start of a team at least that can be in some games and at least are worth watching.
Yeah, and do you remember what I said all last year? Do you remember at all?
No, I do not.
Would you like me to remind you?
Go ahead, fill me in.
The Detroit Tigers, they're going to be a roller coaster. I said that almost, it felt like every single episode last year, but this is what you're going to see from this team. And people, don't get false hope. It's nice to see wins, but this isn't the team that's going to go out there and they're not going to light the world on fire. They're going to, yeah, it was nice that they cleaned up against a garbage team, but they're going to eventually go up against real teams, and you'll see what they are. This winning 1-0, I think that was more, and a testament that we could just outlast a really bad team, and not that, our pitching was just shutting them down. Granted, Fears did look nice, and Shane Green looked very nice in the closer role. It's really going to come down to what are we going to get from our hitters. And while it's good to win 1-0 a couple games here and there, we need our guys. We need our horses. Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez, Nick Castellanos. We need these guys to actually hit the ball. We need to score runs.
Exactly. How much baseball have you taken in so far? 8 games into the Major League season.
Well, I went to the 1 game, and then I've caught a couple innings here and there just from what I've been able to, have time to see. I feel like we're a very average team.
Okay.
And that's where we are right now. We're 4-4.
Okay.
Who on this team are you really surprised by?
A little surprised by Goodrum. He's come in on spot duty, hit the ball a little bit. I'm surprised a little bit that Shane Green a little bit inconsistent. So some ups and downs with some cats, but it's nice to see at least the Detroit Tigers play fundamentally sound baseball. It's nice to see them at least kind of competing, even if it's against bad teams. Look, you can't control who you're playing, and if you're going to go to Chicago, might as well destroy them. You do get a sense, though, that when the weather warms up a little bit, maybe the bats will turn around, maybe the continued pitching can get a little bit better. But there are some definite concerns, that, in terms of, Jordan Zimmerman, some guys that, maybe need to do a lot more at the plate. So obviously there's concerns, but hey, 4-4, we'll take it, right? Could be 2-7. It could be 2-6.
Is that where we are, though? Is that we're happy seeing them just play fundamentally sound baseball? Because, if that's where we are, if that's what we're just expecting this year, then, I'll tune in for some of the games when it's, some random Tuesday and there's nothing else on TV. I'll turn on the Tigers, but it's not gonna amount to much, really.
No, I do think so. I think that the Tigers have come out and they've said we are in a rebuild. It's time to reshift the focus away from winning and just kind of go game by game and just try to do the fundamental things correctly and stay competitive. Winning, I think, is the last priority. I think you probably would rank development, fundamentally sound baseball, sticking together would be some of the things that are ahead of winning right now.
Well, it's better than what we saw with Brad Ausmus last year and really the past 2 years. So if you're asking me if I'm happy with what I see with the Tigers right now, I will say I'm at least happy because, the bright spot that I see is that we don't have guys like Ian Kinsler or JD Martinez or the big names that people attract, and that we are having some success. That's the bright spot that I can see, is that maybe we are starting finally. The rebuild is underway, and that we can actually get somewhere with this team now. Get back to the glory of, actually making the playoffs every year.
Yes. Okay, we got a couple minutes left with Jason Jarvie. Follow him on Twitter at Jarvie the King, co-host Motor City Sports Rant. I want to leave you with this. It just came across the Twitter sphere. Bob Kravitz, an Indianapolis columnist, kind of put out a tweet, and I want to get your reaction because it involves somebody that you and I both love significantly, Eric Ebron, and he writes, Ebron, luck is the reason I signed here. I just wanted to have a quarterback who could get me the ball. And in quotation marks, it says, not sure what he's saying about Matthew Stafford here. And, it could be one of those things where if you asked Ebron, he's like, no, I just wanted to go to a place with a good quarterback. But it could also be looked at like a dig to Matthew Stafford in that Matthew Stafford didn't get him and show him the love that he deserved. What do you make of the comments?
I think you can take it a couple ways. I think it sounds awful because it does sound like Matthew Stafford couldn't get him the ball. And that's just not true. You couldn't hold on to the ball when you were here and
give him a reason to throw it to you, right?
When we trusted you, you took that trust and you stomped on it and just took everything away and you broke our hearts as Lions fans. And only after you had been demoted to like the third tight end that's when you actually started doing anything. So you can go shove it and kick rocks, Eric Ebron. You can take it that, he's just trying to find a system that might fit him better. Maybe you can put it on Jim Caldwell that, he didn't have a system that got it to the tight end enough. But I think it's a cop-out to say that Andrew Luck is a better quarterback than Matt Stafford, because I think there's a very large question mark on if Andrew Luck is going to be ready this season and if he'll actually be the quarterback that he once was. Because I think we saw who's the coach who was going to go to the Indianapolis Colts, and it was who's going to go to the Colts, and then he just sees like, you know what, I'm not going to go there because I'm not
Josh
sure about
McDaniels. Josh McDaniels of the Patriots.
I mean, I think there's actually two coaches. So Josh McDaniels was the guy who had the guaranteed, but then the Vikings offensive was one of the first front runners for that Colts job, and I think he ended up with New York and the Giants. And I think one of his big things is that he looked at what he had in Andrew Luck, and I think he was just unsure of what he was going to get, so he didn't want to take that risk. So for Eric Ebron to say he wants a quarterback to get him the ball, he may be having Jacoby Brissett throwing him the ball this year. So he can take that all he wants.
All right, it's a good note to leave on, Jason. Always enjoy the time that you give. Went by too fast, but we'll be on hiatus. I'll see you in 2 weeks. I'm going to do a recording in a couple hours that I'm going to put out next week talking just exclusively about the Lions and the draft and stuff like that. You can check out our Lions draft coverage on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. You can check out the daily shows. Jason Jarvie, follow him on Twitter at Jarvie the King. We'll be back, hopefully stronger than ever in 2 weeks. Jason will be in studio. Give him a little bit of a spring break like these kids get. And I want Jason to spend time with the family and get everything in order so that when it comes time, draft time, baseball time, football time, he's here week in and week out. You ready to have a good spring break, Jason?
Oh, yeah.
You miss me yet?
The thing about that is...
Well,
that's where I'm going to leave that.
Yeah, if you miss me, you can always check out our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, because you can see my face via any myriad of video platforms, because you know what? With this new goatee, with my skinnier self, I check myself out on Periscope, because, you record a video and then you go right away and check to see what it looked like. I look pretty damn good. The goatee makes me look a little bit more credible, hair on my face, and I look a little bit more svelte, losing 12 pounds this year. I'm like, you know what? Even though I don't think I belong in front of the camera, going in front of it, it just came naturally. So I want your homework in the next 2 weeks is just go to that page, click on it, watch the first maybe 10 minutes, hit the hearts, give me a like or a comment, and that's all I'm going to ask of you. Just stare at me in the next 2 weeks. All right? Sound good? Sound like a fair trade-off?
Oh God, no! I congratulate you on the weight loss. That goatee is tragic, though.
You're not down with it? I like it.
It's okay. If whatever pleases your lady.
Yeah, she's not down with it. I just like it. She's not down with it. She's always like, "Oh, do this, do that." I'm like, "No, I'm keeping the goatee, and I'm going to keep it for the foreseeable future." Unfortunately, though, it's already grown out with some gray hairs. I'm like, "Oh, man,
you got to go with the mustache."
Oh gosh, maybe that'll be the thing when I do shave it. Keep the mustache, but then it makes me look like a predator, so I can't do it.
Exactly, and it's hilarious.
Is it? You see it?
The goatee is funny, but the mustache, it would be amazing.
Okay, maybe next November or whatever the time is, I might consider it. Jason, I always enjoy the time. Best of luck. Have a good couple weeks. I'll see you in 2 weeks. And always, you know where to find me if anything's needed. I appreciate your time, bro. I had a good time.
Later.
All right, with that, this podcast is coming to its end. Always enjoy the conversation with Jason. I really do appreciate his time. Busy man, new father, doing his thing, great husband. Love Jason. Love having him call in. So we'll be back, Jason and I, in 2 weeks. I will have a Motor City Sports Rant next week. It'll be recorded this week, and I'll put it out. So I will put out some Lions content from now until the draft. So it'll be a fun time. So thank you for listening. I appreciate your time. Follow us on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. Visit our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Thank you for subscribing and finding us wherever you can find podcasts. See everybody next time.
nice, idiot. F you. Bye-bye.
Good day, sir. I said good day.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Loser.